Yeah, thank you for joining me anyway, George Napolitano. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you very much. As good as possible. We're in the middle of a snowstorm at the moment here in the UK.
Well,
It's
we just had it in New York, and I just shoveled my car out after a week's time yesterday.
oh, that must have been fun.
Oh, please.
We've got it today. It's incredibly windy. The snow's coming down fast. I've been out in the garden. My fence has come down as well, so I've been nailing my fence back in. It's
Uh,
uh, it's been a fun day. It really has. But
now, where are you? Where am I talking to you from?
I'm in England. We're in a little city called Hull. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Yorkshire.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the east of Yorkshire. I'm about 4 hours from London.
4 hours from London.
Yeah.
I got to say, you got to wear a Metallica shirt. You should have a Beatles.
Well, I do have a selection actually. I will get a Beatles for next time. My choices were Metallica or Motorhead tonight, so I went with Metallica.
Please, I would go with the Zombies or the Searchers or the Hollies.
That's all good choices, and I will make sure next time I have all them T-shirts to choose from. Um, they're all on the list of people I listen to, so they'll be getting checked out.
Well, that's why I loved music, watching the Beatles, please,
Well,
and
that's what everybody
following
says.
following the Searchers and Jerry, who rest his soul, who passed last week. Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Hollies. That was my music.
That's it. A lot of people say the same. I mean, my music is that. Well, my dad got me into my music, and it was the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin, bands like that.
You're a decade or two after me.
Yeah,
Well,
true. I was 1984. I was born, so I've.
I got a couple decades on you. That's all.
Well, obviously, speaking of, I was born in 1984. You was already, photography in the wrestling business. Did you start in the 70s? Was it?
Yes, it was. It was actually 1970. I took pictures already. 1970. So it's like 50 years. I don't want to count. It's crazy.
I mean, how did that come about? And obviously, you was always a wrestling fan. You're a
Yeah.
photographer.
I went. Okay. I mentioned the Beatles earlier.
Yes.
Like I was a fan prior to that, just watching it. Used to watch it a little, but then when the English groups hit our shores, I got into playing guitar and having fun and running around and doing all kinds of things, and I just forgot about wrestling. It was just something I didn't know anything about. I would see it in the paper and I just would read it, but that was it. That's as far as I got. And then it was like 1970. I'm looking at the paper you hear is the New York Daily News, and it said tonight wrestling. And I go to my girlfriend at the time and I say, there's wrestling tonight. I used to go when I was a kid. She says, you want to go? I said, okay. And we went to Madison Square Garden. And then they announced that there was a show, someplace called Sunnyside Gardens on a Saturday afternoon the following week. And we went Saturday afternoon and I took my camera. I was a camera buff. And some guy stopped me and said, you must take good pictures. You got a great camera. I said, I don't know. They're okay. Let me see them next time. So the next time, about a month or so later, I went back and I brought my photos. And the fella said, these are great. You want to work for me? I work for Ring Magazine. And Ring was the big boxing magazine who did wrestling also.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, okay. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had not a clue. I just knew there was something to do. Yeah, I'll work for you. I didn't know what work meant or what work was going to entail. So it was just a thing that I just fell into. But I had been a fan. That's how I watched it.
Yeah, and just to touch on a second ago, you're a guitarist as well. I play guitar as well, so that's something good as well to know.
Yeah, and well, because of the Beatles, and then I wanted to learn how to play guitar, and five guys in the neighborhood. I told them I was taking guitar lessons from somebody. He says, we want to do it too. And I asked the fella and he says, yeah. And so he taught five of us together. And then he went around and said, you're going to be the bass player. You're going to be the organ player. You got long fingers. The big heavyset guy, you're the drummer. And that's how he picked parts for us. And we learned how to play. And within a year's time, we were playing music, playing places. And then we got signed to a record label, Mercury,
Oh, wow.
Smash Records. Yeah, and we recorded 3 records, 45s. I got plastic 45s, not gold, not platinum, plastic 45s on my wall.
That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. Is your music? Can I still find your music, or is it?
Oh yeah, I have at least 10 YouTube videos from songs we did that other people have posted. We didn't do it, not nobody in the
Wow.
band, just and like then you didn't know the scope of the world. People have written to me and say, "Oh, your song was a big hit in Greece." Like, who knew? It was funny places that we've gotten requests from. They had found out that the song went out. Also, too, now it's years ago, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I was looking up a song, and I saw something that said El Hombre de la Armonica, which means the man of harmonica man, being a flip side of the song we did, and it was in Spanish, and I clicked on it, and it was our song. Somebody released an EP with one side having the first 2 songs we did, the other side of an EP, EPs in England,
Yeah.
having the other 2 sides. And we had no idea this had come out. Mercury had released it in Spanish-speaking countries. Lord knows. I mean, like if they did it to us who didn't sell anything, I can imagine how many people really got ripped off who had songs that really sold. Because we had no idea. We had an EP out. So I purchased it, and it cost me like $50 with the cost and the shipping, but I wanted to have it in EP.
Wow, that's incredible. I'll check it out after the interview. I will go on YouTube and have a look.
Yeah, our song, the one song we did was a Reach Out. 4 times we did a psychedelic version, like the Vanilla Fudge here.
Yeah.
Song called Reach Out. But we had 6 songs that are on YouTube, and then we had 2 demos that we did on YouTube. I'll give you them titles later. But
Yes, please. I will check those out. Obviously, you mentioned you went to Madison Square Garden, obviously the New York area as well. It must have been during Bruno Sammartino's time.
Yes, and Bruno was a guy that I loved growing up. That was my guy. Bruno, being Italian from Bruno Sammartino was a guy you're going to like.
Well, I mean, and obviously you got to capture a lot of Bruno's matches and memories. I mean, just how popular was Bruno back in that time?
Well, then it was kind of different. Everything was based on ethnicity.
Yeah.
And Bruno was the champion in the Northeast. A lot of Italian people and Spanish people, of course. Just people in general, and they just loved Bruno. That was the time when you can cheer for the good guys.
Yeah.
And you can boo. You can boo the villains or the bad guys. You cheer for them, and Bruno was just really, really very popular. And getting to meet him was a thrill, because that's a guy that as I said, growing up, that I liked and I wanted to meet.
Yeah. So, and you hear a lot of obviously stories about how nice he was as well. I mean, was that the case with you?
Oh, very, very much so. Being this kid from Brooklyn, Italian, I used to laugh, and we used to joke with me. He was really nice, really nice.
Yeah.
By wrestling, he was just a nice person.
Now, I did watch an interview you did earlier. I was watching a bit today to do a bit of research. And you traveled with superstar Billy Graham. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What was that experience like?
Quote unquote, I used to be his chauffeur. I used to drive him to many of the local spots. Then wrestling was every night of the week in the Northeast. They would wrestle in different places, high school gyms and auditoriums, armories, what have you.
Yeah.
I would drive him to a lot of these places. He was really ahead of his time, or he was. Now I wouldn't say ahead of his time. He was that time, 77, 78. He personified what it was at that era, and
Yeah. Do you think? Obviously, it was a heel, but I mean,
yeah. Well,
could they have flipped him?
Oh, people were cheering for him, and that was kind of one of the problems they had. That people were cheering for him, and they didn't know how to control him or what they can do with him. But he was Hulk Hogan before Hulk Hogan.
Absolutely.
24-inch pythons, and the sing-song jive he did in his interviews, he was what the 70s were about, colorful tights, and he was what it was.
Absolutely. And I read on this as well where you corrected the guy that Billy Graham smartened you up to the business, and you corrected this guy.
No, people say that, he smartened me to the business. I knew already what was going on, but we were just driving. I'm driving him to Baltimore. And he says, I hope you have a lot of film tonight. I says, film? What do I need film for? He says, I'm wrestling Bruno. I says, oh man, I've seen this match many times. I got too many pictures of you and Bruno. He says, but tonight you need good ones. I says, yeah, I got enough film. Don't worry about it. It's you're going to lose anyway. I says, you never know. But that's what he said. He didn't say, I'm winning tonight. Look for me. But that was a time when you had to anticipate and watch and do and be ready. I didn't have a headset with people telling me, look to the left, look to the right. He's coming to the floor. I had to just go with the flow,
It's amazing. I mean, what was it obviously for you then, seeing Bruno drop the title? That must have been a big shock.
Yeah, well, see, but by then I had my Bruno-ness had gone out of me. I met Bruno. We were still friends. I still loved him. He was still great to me, but here was this new guy who I had met previous in Houston, Texas. And we just became friends. He lived in Long Island, and he actually lived in Long Island, but he spent most of his time in the hotel in New York City. He had a room.
Now, I have to ask you as well, I mean, because we've never really had anyone on that we've had to be able to speak about this, but I mean, did you ever get to meet Vince Sr.?
Of course.
What was he like?
Well, when I started, Vince Sr. was the man in charge. It was even before, it was probably a taping before Vince Jr. took over. Then Vince Jr. became the TV announcer. But Vince Sr. was the man in charge. A fella named the Grand Wizard of Wrestling manager. Yeah. He was very well liked and really tight in the office. And we just hit it off. I met him the first day I started doing pitches. And then the Grand Wizard introduced me around and told Vince Sr., if anything we need, this guy can help us. He's really good. So Vince, they used the words, put me over. So the Wizard actually introduced me, brought me around, put me over to a lot of these people. So Vince Sr. knew of me very well. And we had rapport, yes. Not that I did anything. I was allowed to go wherever I wanted to go and do whatever I had to do.
And what was your thoughts on obviously when Vince Sr. stepped down and sadly passed away, Vince Jr. took over? What was your thoughts when obviously Vince started the expansion?
Well, I honestly knew what was going to be. I knew what was coming. Vince Jr. had actually confided in me that I'm taking over the wrestling world. I'm going to do this. But when they say that, I didn't know to what extent he was taking over or what he was going to do. He says, wrestling's going to cease all around and I'm going to be in charge of everything. But it sounded good. It sounded far-fetched, but it sounded good. But I had no idea. Nobody had any idea this was going to come to pass. And I said, I like what I'm doing, going around the country. He says, but maybe there'll be nowhere else to go. I said, but we'll see.
Wow. And because obviously he put everything into the first WrestleMania. I'm presuming you was there for the first WrestleMania?
I was there in the seats. But by then, Vince Jr. had told all of the ringside photographers and such that they were coming out with their own magazine. They're going to take over doing what they want to do. And we weren't allowed to shoot that show. So
right.
I didn't actually shoot it, but I sat there up in the rafters and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Just the intensity was amazing. And I'd have Muhammad Ali and Liberace and I forget, just give me a second. I'll tell you who else was there. Liberace, Billy Martin, and so many people. And Cyndi Lauper, just having this whole big thing come together was something that they had no idea how big it would be. And the intensity to which that building was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I get goosebumps now if I watch it on the network, the first WrestleMania. If someone said to me, if you could go to a wrestling event in history, I'd always pick the first WrestleMania.
Well, There was nothing like it before it, and it was a precedent and set the stage for what was to become.
Absolutely. I mean, and obviously, I was looking at some photos. You took the famous Andre photo with the ladies on his arms.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. What was that like? What was it like being around Andre?
Oh, Andre, he was bigger than life, obviously. He was just a great guy. Well, and we'll go back to Mr. McMahon Sr. He said to me, he says, I need a photo that shows how big Andre is. I need to send pictures around while I book him other places. Got any ideas? And I said, yeah, you got the women wrestlers on the show today. Let's get a picture of Andre with the girls. And I didn't know how it was going to come about. And he said, yeah, okay. And he said, he told Arnold Skolin, who was a wrestler prior, and he used to run everything. And Arnold went and got the women wrestlers. And as they come, Andre's out there. He puts his arms down. One girl goes on one arm, one girl goes on the other arm. The second girl, and the next girl. So now he has 4 girls. He picks them up. He picks up his arms, and I see myself like this, holding them up. I snap at one, boom, boom. He says, boss, you got it? I said, I got it. I took 2 pictures, put the girls down, and that was it. And I took 2 pictures, not like today when I would have taken 1,002.
Yeah.
Just standing there, took 2 photos. I knew the flash went off. I thought it was right, and I made them the picture. And then that picture then became worldwide, went everywhere, proceeded where Andre went.
Yeah. I mean, and as a person, obviously, I'm sure you got to spend a lot of time with Andre. I mean, what was he like as a person? I mean, I've got a picture with the Big Show who dwarfs me. I mean, Andre was even bigger.
Oh, I got pictures. I'm looking up at him, like he was. Then I had met Andre prior. I met Andre in Montreal. He was Jean Ferrer.
Yes.
John Ferrer. I met him in Montreal. He used to wrestle Don Leo, Jonathan, these 2 big behemoths. So he knew me when he got to the WWF.
Yeah.
He knew me facially. He knew who I was. And we became friends. And I used to be with him. I mean, many a night after the matches at the bar, I just would sit with him because all the other wrestlers, he would try to give them drinks. Oh, boss, drink. And they couldn't keep up with him. Me, he never bothered, but I used to sit there just to keep him company. Just, not drinking. I never really was a drinker, but just stood there just to keep him company because he stood by the bar.
Yeah.
He sat by the bar. And say stood. He sat by the bar.
So is it safe to say the stories are true then of his legendary drinking?
Oh, yes. I mean, and they say he ate a lot, but honestly, he used to drink. He was at the bar more than I remember going to eat. He didn't really care to go to eat. He wanted to go to the bar.
Yeah.
Because he could get food later, I think. That's what it was. And then I was with him in Japan on the bus with Hulk Hogan and what have you, and so many different people.
Yeah.
And I remember him sitting in the back of the bus, and he used to chug a lug Remy Martin cognac. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He used to drink that out of the bottle.
Wow.
In the back of the bus, and send Hogan, get more. We need more beer. We need it, and Hogan would then go get everything.
And obviously, speaking of Hogan, I mean, again, you saw the rise of Hulkamania. You've captured many memories. What was that like? I mean, did you see that coming when Hogan first came around?
When he first came around, he was shaven different. He had hair on his chest, hair on his back. But he had this great physique and a great body, and obviously he reminded me of Billy. Yeah. But he didn't have the colors. He had just yellow, or in the beginning he had white trunks and the long blonde hair. But he just looked bigger, and he just had a presence that the other guys really didn't have, and you can tell he was something. I'm talking now, it was 78 or when he first came, 77, 78, 79, maybe. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, because he was Sterling Golden at one point, and then he became
he started Sterling Golden in Tennessee or what have you, in Florida. And but he had a presence. You can tell when you look at somebody, you can see the difference in how they hold themselves.
Yeah.
He had that presence about him. And I've known him again since his first day. So people say, how is he? I mean, he's really nice to me because I've been with him forever.
Yeah.
That's why. And he really is a nice. I think he's a nice guy. He's really nice, but you gotta meet him at different times. Sometimes it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually met him once. He came to the UK a few years ago. I actually met him at a show in Sheffield, which is near where I live, and he was one of the nicest people I've ever met. He was took a photo, signed his autobiography for me. He was so nice.
Yeah, but that's what I say. I say he's really nice. He's nice. I've seen him. I never had a problem with him, and I've never seen him have a problem with people. I mean, people know who he is, and to me, he's wrestling. I mean, really, if it wasn't for him, wrestling wouldn't have gotten as big as it was. I mean, it could have been Superstar who they carried on their shoulders.
Yeah.
If it was 5 years later or so, 5-10 years, but it was Hulk, and he used to be taken for that.
I have to ask you one of my favorite matches of all time, and I'm presuming you was in the garden for it, was Sergeant Slaughter Patterson. The street fight, was it where Sarge got busted open?
Oh, that was incredible. That was just intense action, craziness. You know, like I've seen. I mean, I can't even say thousands. I don't even know. I mean, literally tens of thousands of pictures. But everything I've seen has been through this little hole in the back of a camera.
Yeah.
So like I don't actually sit and study and watch and see every move. I can't recite the move set one after the other because I'm watching through this hole, trying to stay away from the other photographers, stay away from the wrestlers themselves or a ladder or a TV. I have to be really careful with my peripheral vision. So I'm not there studying. And then once I seen it, I didn't go back and look at the matches like a fan who's sat there, had the pleasure of sitting there drinking, eating, and watching.
But was there, I mean, obviously with the garden, I mean, I've been to the garden and I've only had a tour. I mean, what was the atmosphere like for you being in the garden for these events?
See, when you say it, you look around, the place is full, and people fail to realize that the garden used to sell out in the 70s. It wasn't like this big thing that came later. It sold out every 3 to 5 weeks, roughly every month, 3 to 5 weeks. We used to have a show at the garden, and it would sell out. And it was an era when Superstar was on top. They used to sell tickets to a building next door where they had it on closed circuit prior to pay-per-view and what have you.
Yeah.
You would sit and buy a ticket to watch it next door because they would advertise not to be seen on TV. So the only way you're going to see it is being there.
Mm-hmm.
So every month it was like a pay-per-view. You knew something was going to happen at the garden.
It's incredible. I'm getting goosebumps listening to you talk right now. I love everything about it. One guy I did want to ask you about as well. So you mentioned you'd been out and been in the bar of Andre. Did you ever go and have a drink with Ric Flair? Because he's another one who's very well known.
I've had drinks with Ric Flair many places throughout the world. You know, really, he was. Flair was. As soon as Flair comes in, the party starts, and that's how it always was. Flair would.
It's not a gimmick.
Life of the party. He lived it. He lived it, and no matter who was around, he said, "Buy for him and him and him and him," and you know, like he would take care of everyone. Yeah. Once we went to a place, Caesar's Den was a big restaurant in Las Vegas, and it was an NWA convention, and Flair invited just about everybody. And when time for the bill came, Flair took care of everybody. I mean, Flair really, really took care of everybody, and that's why he had the money woes. That and 4 wives will do it, you know.
So it wasn't a gimmick with Ric Flair. It was real, wasn't it? That was the thing.
Flair being out and about it. That was him. I mean, I was out with him in Santo Domingo. Crazy. I mean, I'm stories I can't tell. Craziness all over the world. Really, I've been with Rick, and he was. Again, see, I'm doing it so long.
Yeah.
So they were nicer. They might be nicer to me than they are to other people, but I've seen how they act, and most 90% everybody is really on the up and up. Really nice people. And then I would say that the villains, I'll call them villains to the band, they were nice, and then the good guys, Villains who like used to get all the cheers, but the villains were always the best.
Oh man, I mean, it's wonderful to listen to you, George. Before we run out of time as well, first of all, I'd love you to come back again in a couple of weeks because I think there's so much more to talk about.
Oh, you just let me know, and we have time, we can do it.
Hell yeah! But one thing I did want to ask you, obviously, I did see that you're close to The Rock. How important has it been to be around The Rock and obviously his family as well? You've got to capture memories of his family.
Well, because I knew the grandfather and the father, and then his mother. I mean, I do know them. I knew them. I met them when The Rock first came around. Rocky, when he first came around, he came up to me. He says, maybe you don't know me, but I know you since I'm 12 years old. You took pictures of my grandfather. You took pictures of my dad. If ever I can be of assistance, I can help you. Let me know. So I would think, yeah, okay, thank you. But because I didn't know that I needed his help, but he offered his help, and really every time I've seen him, he's always remembered. I mean, it'll come up to me, give me a hug. Now it's over a year or two ago, taking pictures at something called the Time 100 most influential people in the world, and The Rock was one of the people. So I'm taking pictures, boom, boom, taking. And I put the camera down. It says George, and he come right off the press line and give me a hug. Now all the other photographers are yelling, "We need your picture! We need your picture!" And Rock says, "Wait a minute! You don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to George. He's a legend. Give me time." And then he told the other ones, "You gotta treat this guy good, But he's always been that way, but that's his nature.
Yeah,
he's really very, very nice, really sweet, really down to earth. How you see him is how he is.
Yeah, you get that vibe. Yeah, obviously, George, I can't thank you enough. This is a bucket list for me. This, so I can't thank you enough. It's meant so much. But I would love to get you back because obviously you've seen the wrestling landscape change through the lens of your camera from the generations. So
yes,
it's lovely to get you back to talk some more.
Okay, before we go, we have a minute.
Yes.
I was in Japan with a guy named Wayne Bridges.
Right, okay.
Are you familiar
Footballer,
with him?
yes, soccer player.
No, he was a wrestler, Wayne Bridges.
Oh, right, okay. No, because we've got a football player called Wayne Bridges as well.
He was a wrestler, and he was on tour in early 80s with Andre Otto Wands from Australia and a whole bunch of people. He's one of the only British wrestlers I knew. And then there was another one I met in the late 70s called Brian Maxine, gold belt Brian Maxine.
All right, yeah.
I never saw him wrestle, but I ran into them, and he was doing he was a wrestling technique coach for a play called Teaneck Tansy, which had been in London on the wherever you have your plays. I forgot what you call it.
Oh, the West End.
West End. That's the word I was looking for. The West End. He had been from there. I was going to ask you about him. I mean, these are just guys that I run into.
Yeah, I will. I've heard the names, but I'm not too familiar. So I will do a bit of research and have a look into them.
Brian Maxine, Wayne Bridges, both knew, but you probably knew Les Thornton.
Yes.
Les Thornton and Tony Charles.
Oh yeah, all that Johnny Saints, people like that.
Yeah, they had been in the States. So I would photograph them, and they always were really technical wrestlers. They knew their wrestling.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I will. I'll do a bit of research on those guys, though. I'm always fascinated about learning new things, and obviously, when you come back as well, we'll have a chat about some other British guys, like the British Bulldogs, perhaps, and things like that.
Okay, and I thought you were going to say we're going to talk about the Hollies. Oh, the Surgeons.
Oh, we'll chat about the Beatles and the Hollies when we come back. Don't you worry. I'm going to get the T-shirts already.
Okay. Well, it's been great talking to you, and I hope I answered a few of your questions.
It was a pleasure, George, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.